basements flooding twice in 2 days. Today, we're taking you back to Delta, Utah, as people are dealing with more devastation.
Tracking a cool and stormy day here across the state. Coming up, your air quality forecast, our next chance for rain, and how long our temperatures will stay cool.
A dangerous Taylorsville intersection is complicated by construction and a decision by UDOT that will impact thousands of drivers.
This is an extraordinary measure here that we're taking.
What to expect, for how long, and how to get around it.
We are trying to have their best interests at heart. That's kind of, we put the politics aside.
Only days into a new school year, and a group of Utah doctors have a desperate message to share about students, masks, and what's really happening in the classroom.
A long road and a return to its former glory for this historic building at BYU. The history it holds and how it was saved when nobody said it could happen.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9, starts right now.
Thought we were in the clear, and then Mother Nature didn't agree.
The small town of Delta getting hit again today with more rain and hail less than 24 hours after flooding impacted nearly every home in the city. Thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. Fox 13's Sydney Glenn shows us how the small town is coming together during this devastating week of weather.
An army of volunteers helping clean up.
We just never have seen this much water in this amount of days.
Because we had the lake out here.
As the rain came down Wednesday, it flooded the church's basement.
The water level was about that high, and it was coming through the window.
Then, today,
all this was dry this morning, and there was no water out there from our huge storm yesterday.
The hailstorm hit, and the water came in again.
It's pretty shocking, especially 2 days in a row.
Now, cleanup is starting again.
Exhausting for sure.
Russ Gamble's been here all day, pulling out drywall.
3 or 4 feet deep out there. I just would never imagine in Delta.
Just trying to get this place dry.
It's what I think everybody should do. I think it's part of living in Utah. It's just everybody helps everybody.
Everyone lending a helping hand and praying for no more rain.
That's why we live in Delta. That's why we live in a small community, because they come together, stuff like this. Everybody's at everybody's door.
We did ask a city spokesperson if they're planning to issue a state of emergency because of this flooding. She says right now what they're focused on is just this, helping people and assessing the damage. In Delta, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
And boy, we are hoping that the damaging weather is over for now, Allison.
Oh my goodness, wait till you see these totals that we've had over the last couple of days. So since Tuesday, New Harmony, almost 7 inches of rain. Deseret, more than 5 inches of rain. Heber City, 4 inches of rain. Scipio, more than 3.5 inches of rain. Same thing for Daniel Summit and Beaver. Sandy coming in at more than 3 inches of rain. Now here along the Wasatch Front, Holiday, about 3 inches of rain. Murray, just about that. Provo, a little more than 2 inches of rain. Salt Lake City downtown coming in at 1 3/4. North Logan, 1.5 inches. And Hill Air Force Base, a little more than 1.5 inches of rain. We still have some rain coming down along the Wasatch Front currently. Please be careful out on the roads. We have had a few cars hydroplaning on the highways this afternoon, but we are starting to see this rain really dying down. So snow for the highest elevation, mostly more than 10,000 feet. And for southern Utah, our rain is mostly east of Capitol Reef over towards Colorado. Coming up, your air quality forecast on your Smoky Sky.
All right, Allison, thank you. We're learning more tonight about an incident where a teen attacked a resource officer at Brighton High School today. Just after school started, the officer, who is with Cottonwood Heights Police, was called to the office. She was asked to remove a young man who is not a student and was making a disturbance. Once out the front door, the man jumped, or the young teen jumped the officer, tried to strangle her and get her gun. Her arms were pinned down.
She asked one of the parents to grab her taser and tase him, which is unorthodox and not something that we normally do. But she felt at the time she needed to get him into custody, and she was alone.
The parent did tase the suspect, and the officer was able to get him handcuffed. Officers praised the parents who helped, saying they might have saved lives because the man was saying he would kill everyone if he could get the officer's gun.
Well, it's definitely tough to talk about, but suicide is a real issue with our young people. In fact, suicide is the #1 cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 24 here in Utah. Experts from the Huntsman Mental Health Institute talked about this today, as well as what can be done about it, adding to stress and anxiety. Right now is isolation and the lack of interacting with others because of the pandemic.
The impact of COVID-19 and the pandemic on child development and on the experiences that our children have had will pose a unique challenge for us.
Dr. Rappaport there says the good news is people are finally starting to understand mental health and that stigmas are going away. He says new therapies and approaches as well as medications can successfully reverse thoughts of suicide and help with other challenges young people face. If you or someone you know is struggling, there is always help out there. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. That line is free. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
New at 9, a huge change is coming to an intersection along Bangerter Highway. Starting next week, drivers will no longer be able to cross the highway at 6200 South.
Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher explains why UDOT says they had no choice but to take out the stoplights and shut down the intersection.
Drivers can see the signs as they navigate Bangerter construction on 6200 South. But most don't see the signs of what else is happening at this intersection.
It's a lot of broken up cars and a lot of damage.
Taylorsville PD notices it.
So we have a lot of red light violations in some of the crashes, quite a few of the crashes that we've had.
Quite a few, as in
25 crashes since July 3rd. That's nearly a crash every other day, and it's just completely unacceptable.
UDOT says they made this work zone safe to all standards. They say it's the drivers who won't follow the speed limit or obey red lights.
That's a bad combo, and so we're going to eliminate that conflict point. We're going to take out that stoplight right there and make it so that people cannot pass through.
Starting as early as Monday, anyone driving east or west on 6200 South will have to go another way if they need to cross the Bangerter intersection. They can still turn right onto Bangerter and vice versa. The traffic lights will disappear and everyone on Bangerter North and South will just breeze right through. UDOT expects to keep it this way until November. A dramatic step, but one they say they felt they had to take to keep people safe.
This is an extraordinary measure here that we're taking because of these, reckless driving behaviors that we're seeing that are resulting in crashes. And that's the important thing. We're asking people to really put down the distractions, slow down in the work zone, and really pay attention.
In Taylorsville, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, just to reiterate, the intersection could close as early as Monday, but the timeline on these changes has not yet been confirmed.
Coming up on Fox 13 News at 9.
Even with the rain and the precipitation, we were able to keep having smoke come in at the low levels through the rain.
Why did the storms we had this week not get all of that bad air out of Utah? Fox 13 News is getting answers.
Could Utah's mask mandate ban cost the state hundreds of millions of dollars? The notice from the federal government and how Governor Cox is responding tonight.
And a piece of BYU's history saved before it could be demolished. We'll show you what it took to save the university's first women's dorm for a new generation.
Former NFL quarterback Tony Romo is playing in the Utah Open this week. Coming up, he'll tell us about his love of golf and of Zach Wilson's chance in the NFL.
Sheriff's deputies in Grand County are investigating the deaths of 2 women whose bodies were found along the LaSalle Loop Road yesterday. They believe they were murdered. The Sheriff's Office has identified the women as 38-year-old Crystal Turner and 24-year-old Kylan Schulte. Both were shot in the South Mesa area, but investigators have not released much more information. A GoFundMe account has been set up to help the families pay funeral expenses. If you happen to have any information that could help the investigation, call the Grand County Sheriff's Office.
Tonight, the Parley's Canyon fire is now 80% contained. Crews say the rain really did help out a lot, but did cause some mud to slide along I-80 that UDOT had to come in and clean up. A lot of firefighters were sent home yesterday or were assigned to other fires.
This week, storms have helped relieve Utah's drought somewhat, but a Utah State University professor has a warning.
As Fox 13's Aaron Cox shows us, if we aren't careful over the next few days, we could end up depleting the newly replenished water resources.
In some places, the ground is still wet from the rain that poured down across Utah during this past storm.
Some of the water totals I'm seeing are incredible.
Sheridan Hansen, who teaches horticulture at Utah State University, says the storm means good news for farmers.
Like Bountiful yesterday, I believe, got between 2 and 3 inches of water, which is kind of unheard of for us. That's a lot of water for Utah.
Which a lot of water can be good.
Rain is great. Too much too fast may not be so great.
Underneath the soil, Hansen says there are aquifers, or spaces that store water. The drought meant the water levels in the aquifers lowered, forcing plants to grow longer roots in an effort to reach their nutrients. But with this past storm system, the aquifers were filled.
We want to see those fill up. And when we get rain like this, it's great because we can add to those aquifers. We can build a little bit of water in those storage areas. But when the rain comes down too fast and too much, what we see is that groundwater is not able to soak all the way through the ground and get down into the aquifer. So instead it runs off. And so we're not able to build that storage.
If the water is not used wisely, a lot could turn into a little all too quickly.
I'm seeing along the Wasatch Front, Davis County, where I'm located, our growers are likely not going to have to worry about irrigation this next, for at least the next few days, maybe the next week. So my number one thing that I would tell viewers is to please go out and turn off your irrigation systems.
Hansen says the average person uses about 3,000 gallons per day with irrigation or outdoor water use.
You make a huge impact when you go outside, turn off those sprinklers after rain, let that water that we just got be used for other purposes.
Hansen says the water is not enough to have long-term impacts, but it's just a few days of good news for the drought and our farmers. In Davis County, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, Hansen says there are sensors you can put on your sprinklers that actually turn them off after a rainstorm, adding right now you only need to water 2 days a week to keep your lawn alive, and it's actually healthier for your grass than watering every single day.
With the smoke still lingering in the air after 2 days of storms, a lot of people have been wondering, why is it still here? Fox 13 News was curious as well. So we asked the lead meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City that very question. She tells us the high concentration of smoke from wildfires out west are mixing with the colder air, and that's only hurting us.
Winter inversions and smoke are different. You can't climb into the mountains and get above the smoke layer. You can't drive away from the smoke layer.
Satellite pictures do show the smoke tapering off over time. However, we're likely to continue to see this type of bad air until the wildfires out west burn out. That's not happy news.
No, and it's really such a weird situation. I think a lot of people were looking outside thinking, well, what is this? Is it haze? Is it low-hanging clouds with the rain we've been getting?
You know, probably a combination of all of the above over the last couple of days. Tonight, we had some rain showers that just moved through Salt Lake City enough that we did see some hydroplaning on the main highways. So if you are traveling tonight, take things extra slow, leave yourself a few extra minutes. But here's our current air quality, just updated from Purple Air. It's a mixture of moderate to orange air for Logan down through Layton and Ogden. And then for the Salt Lake Valley, a little further east right now, we do have some of those locations down towards Cottonwood Heights and Sandy registering as moderate. Once you get into Midvale and out towards West Valley City, orange. So that's unhealthy for sensitive groups. A big improvement for Provo this afternoon. So Provo and Orem looking pretty good. Down into Payson and then now southern Utah, that wildfire smoke smoke has made its way back. So all of those readings right now, St. George, Cedar City, up through central Utah towards Capitol Reef, showing up as orange. Now I want to quickly just look at a picture from last night. RJ Hooper taking this picture at Snow Canyon as those storms were off in the distance. Absolutely stunning to be able to see that with the red rock. And tonight we do again have some lightning out there. For the Wasatch Front, it's mainly been just moderate to heavier rain showers that move through. Things have really died down though in the last hour, hour and a half. Still a little bit of snow coming down along the highest terrain. So once you get up towards Park City, Camas, into the western Uintas, that's where it transitions to snow. And then into eastern Utah right now, Capitol Reef over towards Colorado, that's where there are some rain showers. Now, Colorado has been dealing with tornado warnings today, much stronger storms than we are seeing this evening here across Utah. We're at the tail end of this system, and the totals were extremely impressive from the last 3 days. Temperatures here across the state, 53 for Salt Lake right now, 54 for Provo, 55 for Cedar City. So as we're getting ready for bed tonight, it's chilly. And then here's what you need to know if you do have any weekend plans, any road trips this weekend. It's much drier Friday, but look for some remaining debris on the ground from the storms that we have had. So still travel with caution. Then a chance for some storms returns Saturday afternoon and night. So keep that in mind. But overall, mild temperatures, a mostly nice weekend. You could even bring the bike wherever you're going as a way to get around. That'd be a fun option. So we'll see things clearing out tonight. Tomorrow morning, mostly sunny skies. Still a little bit of haze. We'll have that smoky sky forecast coming up later in the hour. And then by Saturday night, a line of thunderstorms developing from Wyoming stretching towards Nevada. So this will be by Saturday 5 p.m. Those will start to bring into northern Utah. But for tomorrow, before then, temperatures will be a little bit warmer. So when you first wake up, still a very cool start, around 45 to 55 for Salt Lake, Ogden, and Provo. St. George close to 70 tomorrow morning. And then for tomorrow afternoon, our temperatures will be around 70 to 75 for the Wasatch Front from Provo up towards Logan. So for St. George tomorrow, 91. Next week, you heat back up. So by next Wednesday and Thursday, close to 105. Lots of sunshine for St. George, and then for Salt Lake City, upper 70s tomorrow, evening thunderstorms on Saturday, and then we're going to be dry and warm for the rest of the 7-day forecast. Coming up, though, let's look at that smoky sky forecast for tomorrow as we start the weekend.
All right, Allison, thank you. American troops are working around the clock to help people flee Afghanistan. Still ahead, see what social media platforms are doing to protect the most vulnerable. Thousands of Americans and many more Afghans are desperate right now to get out of Afghanistan, which is now under Taliban rule.
The Pentagon says they can get thousands out every day, but far fewer have actually been able to leave as chaos continues at the Kabul airport. The Biden administration continues to defend its move to have U.S. troops leave the country. The Wall Street Journal reports last month 24 State Department officials at the Kabul embassy warned Secretary of State Antony Blinken the Afghan government would rapidly collapse as U.S. troops withdrew.
There was nothing that we had seen that would indicate a total collapse of the government in 11 days. This is a very fluid situation, remains very fluid. Things certainly happen faster than we anticipated.
Social media platforms are doing their part to protect people in Afghanistan. Facebook and Instagram are tightening online security for accounts, and Twitter is helping to remove tweets that may be used against Afghans, journalists, and activists by the Taliban.
Tense moments in our nation's capital today after an hours-long standoff forced several buildings to evacuate after a man claimed to have explosives in his truck. According to the Associated Press, 49-year-old Floyd Ray Roseberry of North Carolina drove his truck onto the sidewalk right outside the Library of Congress and then began making bomb threats to police officers.
The driver of the truck told the responding officer on the scene that he had a bomb and what appeared, the officer said, appeared to be a detonator in the man's hand.
Roseberry reportedly surrendered to police after 5 hours of negotiations.
A bankruptcy judge has approved a proposal by the Boy Scouts of America. It would set up an $850 million fund to compensate tens of thousands of men who say they were sexually abused as youngsters by Scout leaders. However, the judge rejected 2 key provisions of the deal, potentially jeopardizing the agreement. The organization had hoped to use it as a springboard to emerge from bankruptcy.
Moderna has received approval to begin human trials in 2 vaccine variations that fight HIV. This will be the first mRNA vaccine trial on humans in the decades-old AIDS epidemic. The first phase will monitor immune responses in 56 healthy individuals over the next 10 months.
Coming up after the break.
Hey, I don't feel safe. I'm worried about the younger ones. No one has masks on.
The feds warn Utah of a possible investigation into its school mask ban.
A plea today from doctors for younger students to wear masks in school.
We're already seeing a little bit higher transmission rate on school property.
And what's already happening just a few days into the new school year.
To use the past to really influence the future.
A historic building at BYU was nearly demolished. Who came to its rescue and why it's so important?
Is it better to play pretty soccer or win games? RSO captain Albert Rusnak will tell us coming up.
Just all about the same goal that we share, and that's trying to keep kids in person.
But the Utah legislature outlawing mask mandates has drawn the attention of the U.S. Department of Education.
The new Utah law could prompt a federal investigation and result in the loss of millions of dollars in federal funding.
Fox 13's Ben Winslow has the latest from Utah's Capitol Hill.
U.S. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona sent the letter to the governor and state school superintendent warning Utah's laws restricting mask mandates could violate the American Rescue Plan Act. Utah's actions to block school districts from voluntarily adopting science-based strategies for preventing the spread of COVID-19 that are aligned with the guidance from the CDC may infringe on a school district's authority to adopt policies to protect students and educators.
While there was a tone of our eyes are on you, that's fine. We're very transparent about the way that we're spending our funds. We're spending them appropriately. But at the end of the day, the guidance that came from the Federal Department of Education is that, it's guidance.
The feds warn of potential civil rights actions, which can include pulling millions in funding. In a statement to Fox 13, Governor Spencer Cox's office says the letter is extremely unhelpful. Utah has been praised for safely keeping schools open last year and for making better masks available to students and teachers this year. As we continue conversations with legislators, public health leaders, school leaders, parents, and local health departments about the best way to safely return to schools, given the unique circumstances in Utah, the last thing we need is threats from out-of-touch bureaucrats at the U.S. Department of Education. Legislative leaders say they don't explicitly ban mask mandates, but require school districts to work with local health departments, elected officials, and the public.
They say that, but then they can overturn it. So it's a lot of authority that they have that they've taken on themselves.
So far, Grand County is the only place to have a mask mandate for kids in schools who can't be vaccinated. Salt Lake County's health department director instituted one, but it was overturned by the county council.
We've stated that we're following the law. And we learned a lot last year. We're doing everything possible to try and keep kids in school in person.
One teachers union says it supports the U.S. Department of Education's warning letter.
Teachers are concerned. I've been getting the phone calls since we started this week. Hey, I don't feel safe. I'm worried about the younger ones. No one has masks on. The older ones, I don't know if they're immunized or not.
Now, Utah is not the only state to get this letter. Other states with mask bans have been getting them too. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
As the first week of school continues, hundreds of pediatric medical professionals want to see masks in schools, especially for students too young to be vaccinated.
Yeah, that's any child under the age of 12. Fox 13 Spencer Joseph spoke with the American Academy of Pediatrics and continues our back-to-school team coverage.
The most important thing we can do is advocate for children.
As the school year starts, COVID cases and masking concerns are again at the forefront of a back-to-school debate.
And in advocating for kids and making sure that we are trying to have their best interests at heart, that's kind of put the politics aside.
Dr. Aaron Avandet is a member of the Utah chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
We care for kids.
And the AAP is advocating, regardless of mandates, for kids to wear a mask. In a release saying, quote, universal masking in schools is critical for in-person learning environments to mitigate COVID infections.
And we know that the best thing for kids is getting those kids vaccinated that can be vaccinated that are over 12, and then mask wearing and social distancing for other kids.
The state's COVID dashboard shows Davis School District has 8 cases. Jordan and Washington both have 9. Salt Lake County private schools have 13. And Granite School District has 16.
And so it is concerning. It's something that we're watching really closely.
We are strongly recommending everyone wear a mask on school campus, whether you've been vaccinated or not.
Granite's own number of cases is slightly lower at 12 as they reset the number starting on the first day of school. But Ben Horsley with the district says without a mask mandate, they're seeing higher levels of transmission.
We're already seeing a little bit higher transmission rate on school property. I expect that because mask usage is not consistent across the board, there will be a little bit more transmission than we're used to on school property.
With the overturning of Salt Lake County's K-6 mask mandate, to Mayor Mendenhall asking the Salt Lake City School District if they want a mandate, the mask debate is alive and well. But doctors are advocating for universal masking, and with case counts rising, the future remains uncertain.
There's going to be some challenges. We're not back to normal school.
I can't make a full prediction on what that's going to look like, obviously. My hope is that the response will be swift.
An update to Salt Lake City schools as well. Mayor Aaron Mendenhall asked the school board yesterday if they want her to issue a mask mandate. Right now, the board is taking that into consideration and looking at the legality of that before they get back to the mayor. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on the latest on that debate. In Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Just under 1,300 new COVID-19 cases and 14 new deaths were reported in Utah today. Hospitalizations are at about to crack 400 now. The weekly positivity rate is 13.9%.
Vaccinations are up with 11,271 people receiving a shot since yesterday's report. Another 3,563 people have become fully vaccinated.
We are going to show you some totals that you haven't seen from these storms, exactly how much rivers and creeks rose all across the state. That's coming up.
And coming up, tracking rain showers here across northern Utah, causing some ponding on the roads. So coming up, how long the rain will last and what you can expect for the smoky sky heading into the weekend.
Well, as we have been reporting all week, the weather has really been wreaking havoc on a lot of the state. The force of all that water yesterday and today has affected places where a lot of Utahns live.
But in other parts of the state, that water swept through lonely landscapes with record force. Fox 13's Max Roth takes an in-depth look at Utah's high waters.
I'm about to show you some amazing totals that show the sudden force that all of this rain puts on the landscape. And for every river and creek I mentioned, I could have chosen another 3. Every dot on this map is a river or creek that set a record for its highest flows ever on this day. The numbers go from impressive to downright shocking, especially as we look southeast. Speaking of which, the Colorado River is Utah's biggest, and in an average year on this day, it would be flowing at 3,400 cubic feet per second at the measuring station near the Colorado border. Now, cubic feet per second doesn't help anyone picture anything, so let's say this measuring cup tops out at 1 normal Colorado River on this day. And we can also look at how high each river rose. We'll say this secret agent man is 6 feet tall. At 5 a.m. on Wednesday, Little Cottonwood Creek was flowing at 30 CFS, cubic feet per second, about 1/100th of a Colorado river. At 3:30 in the afternoon, it was at 673 CFS. That's 1/5 of a Colorado. The gauge went from secret agent man's ankles to his neck, 5 feet 3 inches deep. Let's head southwest to the Paria River. At 10:30 Tuesday night, it was basically a deep ditch, 4.5 cubic feet per second flowing through. That's 1/750th of a Colorado river. At 9 Thursday morning, 3,240 cubic feet per second, 95% of a Colorado. Secret agent man was standing in a 7-foot high stagnant ditch and then in a 12-foot high torrent. and now moved southwest. The Dirty Devil River was a dripping faucet at 6:15 Wednesday evening, 0.34 of a cubic foot per second. That's 1/10,000th of a Colorado. At 9:30 in the morning, it hit 3,250 cubic feet per second, 96% of a Colorado. And the San Juan River flowed at a pretty healthy 1280 CFS at 3 Wednesday afternoon, 38% of a Colorado. Thursday morning, 7:45, 6,970 CFS. That is a touch more than 2 Colorado rivers. Secret Agent Man went from 6.5 feet to 11 feet deep. As that water swept through these streams for a time, the San Juan River was king, bigger than the Colorado, even though it's a tributary to the Colorado. In the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It was set to be demolished after being closed for decades, but now the first women's dormitory at BYU has been saved and it is reopening its doors. We'll show you straight ahead.
Former NFL quarterback Tony Romo is playing in the Utah Open. Coming up in sports, he'll tell us what he thinks about Zach Wilson. And Harvey Longy had a big night in the NFL preseason for the Patriots. The highlights are on the way.
Welcome back, everyone. So glad you can join us for Fox 13 News at 9. Fox 13 meteorologist Allison Krogan. She is over in the First Alert Weather Center. She will have your forecast coming up in just a few minutes. It is a chilly day, isn't it?
It did turn out chilly and windy and rainy, but we're glad that hopefully we're going to get a respite here. Well, a new study from Brigham Young University has found that praising middle school students may improve their behavior. Researchers at BYU and the University of Kansas observed 28 classrooms at 5 middle schools. They learned that when middle school teachers praised students more than they reprimanded them, class-wide behavior improved by 60 to 70%.
The other thing that was interesting about this study was we were able to look at grades. And we found that the academic grades, the grades that students got in the classrooms, where teachers were praising at higher rates and reprimanding at lower rates, were higher. They improved by about a letter grade.
The group previously conducted the same study on elementary school students, but found better results with middle school children.
An 82-year-old building slated for demolition is now back to its original grandeur in Provo after a massive renovation. And tonight, Fox 13's Haley Higgins shows us how the Amanda Knight Hall is welcoming students once again.
For the first time in nearly 60 years, young women live in Amanda Knight Hall.
It's so fun living here and, getting inspiration from the place where you live. It's really awesome.
Built in 1939 as the first women's dorm at Brigham Young University. It's the only surviving example of English Tudor and Jacobean Revival styles in Provo.
There's some initials of people who used to live here underneath the mantle, which is pretty cool.
And we saw that magical building and talked to some people there and decided we wanted to move there.
Sally Chalmers was one of the last women to live here in 1963. She spoke to us from Washington, D.C.
It almost felt like a castle to me. It was just fun.
In 1964, the dorm became classrooms for the Missionary Training Center before falling into deep disrepair. By 2018, it was deemed unrestorable and headed to demolition. Community and historical activists couldn't let that happen.
The bones were good. The skin was good. But there was rework that clearly was needed to bring back the historicity of the building.
Salt Lake developers bought the property from BYU. For 2 years, they've worked to bring her back. A passion project, says Chris Phipps.
We tried to keep as many of the original features as we could, right? So we leave the stonework and then we bring in an insert.
Once again, Amanda Knight Hall is approved housing for women attending BYU.
We're so happy to see this happen. We don't always get preservation wins.
A building rich in Utah education history, alive again after being so close to demolition.
We want them to come and to see what great things can be, and then to go and make a difference in the world.
A few students have been living here at the hall since January, but after this weekend, it'll be at full capacity with nearly 60 60 female students. Reporting in Provo, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Such a beautiful building.
Yeah, so
really
glad
neat.
they were able to restore it.
All right, you got to look closely. I know it's dark outside right now.
Did I just see something?
Yes, this is a live look of some snowflakes falling at Snowbird tonight.
Those aren't mosquitoes.
I don't think so. No, we are starting to see some snowfall. Now, I know we saw it earlier in the Alta area. Am I right on that, Allison?
Yeah, Snowbird had some snow earlier up in the Uintas, basically just the highest mountains of Utah.
So the lifts aren't running quite yet.
And they're not spinning quite yet, Bob, but hey, you know,
start.
Typically,
you can dream, can't you?
Yeah, when we're in winter inversions, it's nice because you can escape up into the mountains to get out of the bad air quality. That's not the case with wildfire smoke, though. So from Logan down through Layton, we still have moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups for our air quality. For the Salt Lake Valley right now, mostly moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups. A little bit better east of I-215. Up in the Wasatch Mountains right now, that's actually where we are seeing a little bit of better air quality. And then down into Utah County, Provo, Orem, air quality is looking better. Smoke has moved yet again into southern Utah. So here's what I want to show you. The surface smoke forecast for tomorrow morning. You'll notice that we'll still have some smoke around tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. As we head through the day, though, the surface smoke will likely improve, but when I look at different forecast models, I look at several different things. One of the things that I look at is a vertical integration of it, so looking vertically, so higher in the atmosphere, if we can bring those in. But the smoke has been coming in mostly at the low levels, and we will continue with the fires still burning. So this smoke isn't going away for forever. It'll be back at times over the next couple of days and weeks until this fire is put out. So just take the good air days when you can get them. 53 here in Salt Lake right now. It's very chilly out there, at least compared to what we've been experiencing. About 60 degrees by 10 a.m. tomorrow with more sunshine. Had a few showers this evening, one that moved through the Salt Lake Valley about an hour and a half ago that ended up causing some ponding on the roads. And then down across southern Utah, some pretty dry in southwestern Utah today. Southeastern Utah, still a few showers, especially once you get over into Colorado. That's where the stronger storms have been developing today. Overnight temps when you first wake up will be about 45 to 55 for Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden, and Logan tomorrow morning. Cedar City 48, and by tomorrow afternoon, it'll end up being around 70 to 80 here across the state. So Salt Lake 76 degrees at 5 p.m. That's a great temperature heading into a weekend, right? So chances for rain will return on Saturday. Wasatch Front tomorrow, though it'll be sunny, although a little hazy out there. Then by Saturday afternoon, more chances for showers and thunderstorms Saturday night, and then we'll be pretty dry for most of the rest of the 7-day forecast. So this rain projection over the next 7 days, you'll notice the more significant amounts will be off to our north and our east. So we're looking mostly at northern Utah, north of Nephi, seeing additional rain amounts, mostly less than an inch of rain possible over the next 7 days, and then down into southeastern Utah. Now we look at temperatures for St. George, and you are back extremely hot by next Tuesday and Wednesday, close to 105. But mid-90s this weekend. And for Salt Lake City, we're close to 80 tomorrow through the weekend, low 80s, and then back into the 90s by next Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, Tony Romo is playing in the Utah Open tomorrow at Riverside Country Club. Romo played 14 seasons in the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys. Now he's an NFL broadcaster, but he has a passion for golf.
I took it up, played high school golf. Never really practiced or hit a ball, you know. I mean, just showed up and played 9 holes, like kids do, and enjoyed it and stuff. And then didn't play much in college at all. Went to the NFL, had time in the afternoons in the off season after you do all your football stuff in the mornings, and so started hitting balls in the afternoon. Started to get a passion back for it, and then started full time after football ended about 4 or 5 years ago.
Romo's a great NFL analyst, and he hasn't seen former BYU Cougar Zach Wilson play a ton, but he likes the Jets QB.
I think you guys don't quite know how good this kid is. I think he is super rare. I think he's like a young Dan Marino. I just think that Zach has rare ability. He's like what I think he is, a hard worker, he cares and loves the sport. The ceiling is crazy high for this kid. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, crazy levels, which is saying a lot.
On the PGA Tour, the Northern Trust in New Jersey, the first of 3 playoff events that will determine the FedEx Cup champion. Tony Finau's 23rd in the standings. The top 30 make it into the final event, the Tour Championship. Nice shot by Tony on the 4th hole, his 13th of the day. Here's a great bunker shot on the par 3 16th hole. That led to a birdie. Tony's tied for 4th place at 4 under par after a first round 67, 4 shots behind leaders Justin Thomas and John Rahm. Former BYU Cougar and being a Miner, Harvey Longy had a big game in the Patriots preseason game against the Eagles. Had this interception to go along with 1 sack, 5 tackles in the Patriots' 35-0 win. RSL won their 2nd straight game at home last night thanks to a late goal from Anderson Julio in the 88th minute to give RSL a 2-1 win over Houston. RSL didn't play their best against Houston or Austin on Saturday, but hey, they picked up 2 wins and all 6 points to move into the 5th spot in the Western Conference standings. RSL plays 4th place Colorado on Saturday, and while they would like to place a nice Brandon style of soccer every match, winning's more important.
This stage of the season, the points is all that matters, and the points will take us to the playoffs, not necessarily a nice way of playing, because we played this year many games where we dominated the game and came out of the game with nothing or 1 point, you know, and that isn't helping. So ideally, as I said, you know, we want both. We want to play a nice way, nice style of football, but the most important thing right now are the points.
Points always matter.
And back to Tony Romo.
Yeah.
Pretty great comparisons. Young Dan Marino.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes types. So
Those were really nice,
Exactly.
flattering remarks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at him,
We
Zach.
love it.
I know. I hope Zach is relishing in
Something
those
to those effects.
comments tonight.
It means
Thanks,
something.
Jeff.
We'll be right back.
Oh, a mystery here. Folks are trying to figure out who is behind this. A 25-foot tall duck floating in a harbor in Maine. The giant rubber ducky with the word joy on its front popped up last weekend. No one knows how or when it got there. Local tourists, they've been stopping by, snapping pictures all week.
Of you.
Sing us out, Bob. Thanks for being with
Quickcast
us.
is up next.